Sunrise on the reaping. Suzanne Collins. When you've been set up to lose everything you love, what is there left to fight for? That's a bar. I'm so excited to learn about Haymitch. Oh my gosh. Welcome back to my universe. Did you miss me? I missed you. I am holding in my hands Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This book came out last week, earlier this week, technically. I am so excited to dive in. If you've been keeping up with my Hunger Games vlogs, welcome back. If you haven't and you have no idea what I'm talking about, maybe perchance you should ponder on looking back on them. If you care to know my thoughts about the other books. If you don't, then welcome aboard. I don't know very much, except that our main character is Haymitch. Obviously, we already know from our previous novels in the Hunger Games that Haymitch ends up winning the Hunger Games. However, we do not know what happens in between. So I'm just very curious to see what Suzanne Collins does with this. Grab a snack, get on comfy, let's find out what happens to Haymitch Abernathy. Bam! I am on chapter 5 of this novel now. And let me tell you, we gotta backtrack. We gotta cover some things. Before I go into my feelings, I will just give you a brief update on what we have gathered so far. So, Haymitch wakes up on the reaping day. Boom. This is where we begin. He wakes up on the reaping of the 50th annual Hunger Games, which means that it's a quarter quell, and he tells us that it is his 16th birthday. So his birthday is always on reaping day. Well, he plans out his whole day talking about how, oh, after the reaping, I'm going to be able to see my girl, Lenore Dove. Which is crazy because we all know that there will be nothing happening after the reaping except Haymitch going to the capital. It's also interesting that one of the gifts he is given for his 16th birthday is some white liquor. And in response, he says, well, I'm not much of a drinker myself. You're not yet, Haymitch. Might want to save that bottle. But anyways, so we meet Lenore Dove, who is his love interest. We don't really know too much about their relationship as of yet. Haymitch goes to the reaping. We know that because of the quarter quell, double the amount of tributes will be sent in. So instead of 2 names being pulled, 4 are going to be pulled, 2 boys and 2 girls. So the 2 that are pulled for the girls are Maisie and Luella. Maisie is actually Katniss's mom's best friend, which we kind of learned about in the original Hunger Games trilogy. Also, the Everdeen parents are mentioned in this novel, which was crazy, as well as Peeta's father. So I'm excited to see what other mentions we get in this book. I can tell that this book is probably crawling with them because Suzanne Collins, she knows what she's doing. The 2 boys who are pulled from District 12 are Wyatt and a boy named Woodbine. However, Woodbine's entire family is very defiant, we come to find out. And so in an act of this defiance, Woodbine actually runs. And he gets shot, which causes chaos, as you could imagine. In the midst of this chaos, Lenore Dove is trying to help Woodbine's mother get to his body. So sad, when obviously this is defying what the peacekeepers are wanting. They are trying to keep everybody in a row, all their little ducks in a row, trying to get everybody contained, trying to figure it all out. And Lenore is trying to help Woodbine's family because his family obviously is not going to have it. They just saw Woodbine get shot. No way. But Haymitch notices this and thinks that Lenore might be getting herself into trouble, so he butts in. But because he butts in, they then decide that he will be the replacement. So technically his name isn't actually drawn in the reaping. It's drawn for the camera, but it's way deeper and more complex than that. So that is how we end up with our 4 tributes from District 12 in this Hunger Games: Haymitch, Wyatt, Luella, and Maisie. So those are our 4. Also, fun fact about me, I have been using these little sticky notes to make notes, so I remember to talk about certain things in my vlogs, because I don't always film my vlogs right after I'm done reading. I'll usually read my books in chunks and then vlog, but these make it so much easier and I love them. It's just, they're so cute. So as they're being hauled to the capital, Haymitch talks about how District 12 does not have a living victor, which is interesting because then that just proves that nobody knows anything about Lucy Gray. So very interesting. I'm sure we're going to find out a little bit more about what had happened to her. I'm itching to see because I genuinely am curious what she ended up doing. So they don't even know who their mentors will be because they have to have a mentor, but they just don't have any living victors. So who would want to mentor them? But yeah, so they just arrived to the capital and other tributes are arriving also from other districts. So that's currently what is happening. Also, let's have a moment for the Haymitch bookmark. I love it. It's my favorite thing ever. First of all, we don't need to say anything about my messy bun, okay? I'm being lazy right now. Second of all, I am actually horrified about what I just read. Don't mind me as I do my facial routine. I only read one chapter last night, so that means I'm on chapter 6, and Luella? Oh my gosh, I need to say her name right. I have to honor her. It is Luella, I checked. Should have went with my gut, as I always should. But Luella died, was flown from the Chariot. Like, Suzanne, honey, you need to give me a break. We are on chapter 6, honey. 6. And I'm already at my limit. I'm used to Stephen King books, so unfortunately, I can take a lot of trauma before I have to put a book down. But yeah, I hope this isn't like The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in the fact that so much happens before the Hunger Games that the actual Hunger Games doesn't feel as eventful. But I know that because we're following around Haymitch, it will inherently be a more engaging book during the Hunger Games because he's actually a part of it. So I'm excited to see what ends up happening. It's very interesting reading a book where you know how it ends, but at the same time you actually don't. I'm gonna read a little bit more. I do have to get up early tomorrow for my internship, so I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to read. However, I will do my best as I always do, and I'll get back to you very soon. We have a lot to talk about. I'm on chapter 12, which means that I made it to part 2 of Sunrise on the Reaping, and there has been so much happening. I'm almost halfway, and I think it's interesting. This is just an observation. Half of this novel isn't even the Hunger Games. So that leads me to think that Suzanne doesn't talk as much about the Hunger Games in this novel, since usually in the rest of the books, the Hunger Games actually takes up a major part of each story. So it'll be interesting seeing how the pacing works for the rest of this book. But I'm on chapter 12. So many characters have sprung up and caught me completely by surprise. Tell me how. Mags and YRS are Haymitch's, well, District 12's mentors. Like, I literally screamed when I read that part, and I sat like this on my bed. I am a huge Mags fan. If you've seen my Catching Fire vlog, you already know this. Huge Mags fan. And so I loved seeing her again and getting to know her when she's a little bit younger. It's cool to get some of her background and how she interacts with all the other characters that we know and have known from Catching Fire. And I mean, on top of YRS too, right? Like, that is super cool to see her dynamic. BT is also in this book as well. So there's so many things that are connecting, so many dots connecting in my brain and in this novel, and so many like characters that we're starting to see how everybody is related and how everybody knows each other. There's very few authors, I think, who can do that well, where they can create a storyline where they can go reverse in the future. They can just kind of jump between their timeline or whatever, and execute their character relationships in a way that makes sense within the timeline. Suzanne, expert. However, we find out that Snow is really fed up with Haymitch because after Luella passed away in that terrible accident, Haymitch ran off with her and ended up basically making a statement in front of the whole Capitol. He rode a chariot, like hijacked a chariot from one of the other districts with Luella's dead body. And they rode in the chariot up to where Snow's balcony is. And Haymitch sits there with Luella. And he starts clapping for Snow. Clapping and basically saying, this is what you did. Are you proud of yourself? And of course, if we know Snow, we know he gets pissed off so easy. So he doesn't really like that Haymitch is doing this and has a private meeting with him where he basically says like, oh, yep, I'm going to kill you in the arena. You just get to choose how you die, basically. On top of this, President Snow actually made a double of Luella. I still don't know exactly how they did it, but they basically took somebody from the districts. They took a child that looks very similar to Luella, and they turned her into almost a replica of the little girl who died. And Snow forces her to be in the Hunger Games with District 12, and he basically tells Haymitch, you're gonna treat her the way you would have treated Luella, and you have to pretend that she didn't die and that everything is fine. Like, how terrible. How traumatic. Especially what her family is feeling back in District 12. Like, your daughter dies, and then the Capitol's gonna pretend like it didn't even happen. Replacing her is so much worse than just, oh, she died. Like, even if they just brushed it off, right? That's still super disrespectful, but it hurts even more that they replaced her. Like, that is just so messed up. They just did their meetings with the game makers to receive their scores, and Haymitch just received a 1. Oh, I love Haymitch. Like, he's just so awesome. Of course he got a 1. To be continued. Oh, hello, friends. I have read quite a bit more, though I am going through this book much slower than I would have liked to be. But all that matters is I'm still chugging. I'm actually in the middle of chapter 16 right now. I should have just finished the chapter before talking to you, but that's okay. So the Hunger Games have begun. We have a ton of things happening. So BT has been talking to Haymitch about what he needs to do to hack the system, basically hack the games themselves, and to prove a point to the Capitol that they actually don't have control. It's all an illusion. And BT's son is named Amper, and he's 12 years old, I believe. So BT obviously is heartbroken, and it's really sad because it's almost like he's putting his money on Haymitch winning. So that's why he's been communicating with Haymitch, talking all this crazy technical stuff, right? Basically trying to teach him as much as he can under the Capitol's nose. Also, you know how there's the careers, right? The top districts. Well, the rest of the districts decided to band together and they named themselves the Newcomers. And that was their entire slogan, talking to all of the Capitol during their interviews with, wouldn't you know, Caesar Flickerman? Oh, Caesar. I love that man. He's every extrovert's idol and every introvert's nightmare. What a guy. But even though Amper invites Haymitch and Haymitch kind of plays it off that he is with the Newcomers, at the end of the day, he decides to go rogue and he's going on his own. So at the beginning of the Hunger Games, boom, it starts. He runs away, right? He grabs like one bag and then runs, which is similar to what Katniss does. But he runs and he is in a beautiful arena. Like, this arena is so lush, creatures everywhere, food everywhere, water everywhere even. And so Haymitch, his bag he grabbed is extremely heavy and he's going through it and he's beginning to wonder why everything that's in his bag is pointless. Like, he's given water, which obviously is not pointless, but there's water everywhere in this arena. So why would they give him water to weigh him down in his bag. He has some potatoes, some apples. I believe he has a variety of other foods as well, but overall, right, he's thinking, why is my backpack full of these things when I could find all of that everywhere else in this arena? So he's starting to get a little bit frustrated until he gets to this stream, drinks some water, and then begins to rest a little bit. And then he sees a rabbit walk up, take one drink from the stream, and it dies right in front of him. So guess what? Everything in the arena is poisonous. So Haymitch ends up throwing up the water and everything else in his stomach, and then he's feeling so fatigued and weak. He ends up seeking refuge under this like blueberry bush, and he waits until nightfall and he ends up sleeping. We also find out that Wyatt unfortunately dies in the first day of the arena. So, but he's really the only one that we super duper care about at this point that has died. And then come the morning, who finds Haymitch? Our dear friend Lulu, who is supposed to be Luella. So yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see what ends up happening, even though we kind of already know what ends up happening. I also wanted to kind of plug in a little bit here, shameless plug a little bit, but today I figured out how to set up my Amazon storefront, and I'm really excited about that. That's actually a pretty big step in my channel. So I will be linking my Amazon store in my bio below if you would like to purchase this book and you haven't already. Obviously, I'm enjoying it at this point, and if you haven't bought it and you're watching this, you already know most of what happens, but figured I would throw that out there and just to let you know that that does exist. I've already created several lists, like I've linked most of my favorite books. I have a list of just my favorite Stephen King books, as well as some like fun book things that I really enjoy. Obviously, I just made it today, so it's not very super thoroughly developed, but I still am working on it, and it's actually really exciting for me. Something new and improved for my channel, and I just feel like it's a really big step forward for me. So yeah, go check it out if you would like to. But back to the Hunger Games. I will keep reading. I will read a little bit tonight. I have a feeling I might get through most of it. Just depends on how sleepy I get. And yeah, I'll get back to you later. I finished it. I don't even know where to begin with this. It was really, really good. I loved the ending to that, and I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. So that just adds to everything. Everything that happens with his family is so awful. And how he ends up being the one to kill the only person he's ever loved. On accident, right? But to have to live your whole life with that. I understand why he drinks to cope. Suzanne did such a beautiful job explaining who Haymitch is and why he does the things he does. How he lives the rest of his life convinced that his one job is to forget what had happened to him in the arena. I don't really feel like recapping what had happened at the end. If you really want to know, you can always look it up or read this book yourself. But I'll leave you with this. I'm definitely giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I think this book might be one of my favorites in the series. Man, it is up there with Catching Fire. Like, this was fantastic. This will take me several days. It'll take me several days to get over. Oh, Haymitch, I love you so much. Like, what he has endured is so... I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And I just love that he was able to mentor Katniss as like a way of saying, wow, she was the one who finally stopped the sun from rising on the reaping. because she stopped the reaping altogether. If you have read this book, please comment down below your thoughts and feelings. I would love to talk about it more with you. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave you with all of that. Thank you so much for following me on this journey and sticking it out through the entire video. That's amazing. Thank you for all your love and support. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want more content from me. As always, I love you so much. And I just hope that you are so safe this week. You make great choices. And I know I'll see you next time. But also, if there's any ravens knocking at your chamber door, don't answer. Love you guys. Bye.